get into my health here so you can actually hear it.
Okay, go ahead, babe. Pause the Twiggy glasses story. $20.
Thank you, Schweizer.
Hi, Schweizer.
Where the hell's Rainy at? I'm getting ready to go into my health spiel and she's not in here.
Yeah, what the heck? She'll have to watch the clip.
So, back in June, so I guess we'll go way back. So I've had migraines since I was like, I think I got my first migraine at 14.
Like legit migraine. In
yes.
the Rainy verse? Yeah, she does.
So yeah, not like the people say, oh, I have a headache and then, or I have a migraine, it's actually just a headache, like legit migraine. I go through like these kind of waves where I'll go through a couple months where they're just really bad, like one every few days or once a week, and then I'll go like months without having any.
But even with, to be fair, I'm just gonna pop in, even like once a week, anybody who has a migraine knows you get that migraine hangover too. So it lasts 3 or 4 days even. Yeah. Continue.
So in June, I was having a migraine attack, or what we thought was a migraine attack. But this one was different because I started getting double vision and my jaw really hurt really bad.
And when I asked him if I needed to take him to the doctor, because you can go to like an urgent care and get a shot for a migraine and it'll help. He goes, I don't know. I'm like,
Yeah. So this one was, usually I tell her no, like, no, it'll pass, you know, it's fine. But the amount of pain I was in, I was like, yeah, we need to go. So we went to urgent care, got into the little office or wherever in the back. And she was doing my blood pressure, and she basically told me, you have to leave and you have to go to the ER because you're having a stroke. So we go to the ER. They basically just treat me for the symptoms that night. So
also, they were terrible.
Yeah, they gave me fentanyl, which is a painkiller.
And they didn't call me like they told me they would.
Hi,
Rainy.
And
terrible.
Just stuff to treat the symptoms, not actually find out what's wrong. So leave there, and then I actually got a neurologist and followed up with them like what, a week later? A month later? Probably a month
It was probably
later.
a couple weeks later because after the steroids and everything else, you were like, well, I feel fine
steroids.
now. Or no, yeah, they did.
Did they give me steroids?
They gave you steroids, yes. Just a little bit. They gave you a bunch of fluids so you were hydrated, some steroids, and then the pain medicine.
Okay, so
you're like, no, I feel fine now.
yeah, so about a month or so later, I follow up with my neurologist, and he does an MRI and a full, blood panel and all that stuff. And he says that I have chronic migraines. So the chronic migraines is basically just migraines, but like just to 11.
Wasn't there another word that they used?
No.
It was chronic?
Chronic.
But they said basically it can mimic a stroke.
Yeah.
So they ruled out stroke completely.
Yeah, so I didn't have a stroke. They just said that chronic migraine can mimic the symptoms of a stroke, which is why urgent care thought I was having a stroke, and they'd rather treat me as I'm having a stroke and not have a stroke than not treat me and I end up dying.
Mm-hmm.
So he says it's chronic migraine, so he puts me on Aimovig, which is a once a month injection. So I have had cluster headaches. And then, so the chronic migraine is basically that, but it's basically you have your pressure headache, your cluster headache, the behind your eyes, it's all at once. It like triggers a brain event that basically all the migraines or different type of headaches that you can get all happen at one time.
And then that's the new normal, is what they're saying.
Yeah, so he said basically you're just gonna have to, hopefully the Aimovig helps, and
make sure you tell your work that you're going to have to take a day off every once in a while if this happens again, kind of thing.
So the Aimovig, it did help my migraines and my headaches. Like I did see a drop in that. Oh yeah, they're insane. So fast forward about another month, maybe 2 months.
No, because that was June. You saw that doctor in July, August.
about a month. About a month or two.
Month and a half, yeah.
So a month or two, it gets way crazier. So a month or two passes, and because they were treating the headaches and the pain, the headaches were fine, but I was starting to have other symptoms. So like, as you guys probably saw on a couple of streams before, like the last one, my speech got really hard. Like, it was very difficult for me to talk. I kind of sound like I was intoxicated. In my gait, which your gait is basically your balance.
Between your waist and your hips.
Yeah, so it's your balance. Like, just normal walking or even standing, I was very tipsy-turvy. So I went back to my neurologist.
And your typing slowed down. That's what you noticed
and my
first.
typing dramatically slowed down.
Oh, Jade, you don't even know. You don't even know.
Yeah, probably not, because it's incredibly rare. So after that started happening, I went back to my neurologist, and he did another MRI, and he found that I had a bunch of white spots on the MRI showing like some inflammation and stuff.
Oh God, you don't even want to know.
and a bunch of lesions, which basically is like almost like, think of like a little cut in your brain. And so what was happening is the lesions and the inflammation were causing the other symptoms, like the speech and the talking or the walking and all that sort of stuff. So he basically saw the MRI and was like, and they did a spinal tap, which is basically they go into your spine, they take your spinal fluid, and they tested that for MS. Shout out to Rainey.
And cancer.
And cancer and stuff. Yeah, like super rare.
But wait, there's more.
So they did the spinal tap, and they were like, okay, so it's not MS, it's not cancer. Yeah. So MS does cause the lesions, which is why they were very, they were leaning towards MS. I was leaning towards MS.
They were basically like, just prepare yourself for that kind of diagnosis.
So that neurologist saw that MRI and was like, yeah, this is out of my, like, it's not MS because we tested for it or whatever. It's, yeah, so this is even rare. This is like, I'm telling you, when I tell you the stats, you're gonna be like, what in the hell? So,
so basically, the spinal tap came back and said,
and it was fine.
And everything's fine.
Yeah,
all blood work came back okay. Everything's like, okay, we understand you're feeling like shit, but we can't find anything. There is still a chance that if you don't show
the bands
in your spinal fluid, that you can still have MS. Well, he had a really good neurologist who went, look, this is way out of my scope. I'm going to send you to a brain and spine institute. Like, I'm going to send you to the top dogs.
So, so it's called Barrow, B-A-R-R-O-W. It's like one of the top in the world that...
If I could scream a shout out from the rooftops about Barrow, I would. Let me just tell you.
Yeah, because they're so basically, instead of just seeing one doctor, I saw a team of them. And the team was like, hey, it could be this. Looking at your MRI, they think that it could be a term called vasculitis, or a disease called vasculitis, which is basically the blood vessels in your head. It's an autoimmune disease where the blood vessels in your head attack themselves, and then that's what creates the lesions and inflammation. So I was like, okay, well...
Exactly, Clint.
So they started to treat me, but it was all outpatient. So they were like, yeah, we'll get this done. Let's schedule this. So that it was like, with like weeks. So like, if I got something done, it would be 2 or 3 weeks because it was outpatient until I saw the doctor again. So I would have to...
And that was like a good turnaround.
Yeah, that was that they're being fast. So all this time during these appointments and like treatment, if you want to call it treatment, it was more like experimental. Let's see what it is. Let's try to find what's happening. I just started to decline. And then, when was that? 12... Hi, Bashful. When was that? 12/17 is when no.
When?
No, that was your birthday.
Okay, so we went out of town for Christmas. We got to go back to his hometown and see his parents. which they hadn't realized how bad it was all getting. So then I'm getting pulled into rooms going like, oh my gosh, thanks so much for taking care of him. Like, what can we do to help you guys once you're home? Like, they're realizing like, oh shit, like he's not joking when he says his speech is slurred, because they only saw us for 10-15 minutes on FaceTime.
Right, and I wasn't talking a whole lot anyway because it was legit difficult for me to actually say a word.
So we get home, our flight gets delayed, whatever. We saw you guys right after that. I think we had one stream that week, maybe two really short, kind of short and sweet streams, because he wasn't feeling well. I wasn't like, it was just, okay, we're going to get on and then we're going to get off. So my birthday was January 11th. So it was just that next week. And that weekend before, we had my parents come over for dinner, essentially for birthday dinner. And during that time, Twiggy looked at me and said, hey, I might need you to take me to the hospital tomorrow, but I'm not sure yet. And just leaves it at that. And I was like, well, holy shit, he's not one to want to go to the doctor.
No, I'm not.
So then we started talking, and we decided together that Monday would be better because his neurologist, they're based out of the hospital in downtown Phoenix.
Yeah. So
we decided that waiting until Monday was going to be better because his doctor would be there. Well, so Monday, we... That's if you're sub long enough, you can get there too. So I take him to the hospital after work, and...
Well, hang on. That day, I get out of the shower, and my gait was so bad that I was literally standing straight up, both feet planted on the ground, and my equilibrium went from straight ahead, like, you know, like your balance is here, to whoop, straight to the floor.
And
like I fell back into the tub and hit my head.
So that was finally, he was going to the hospital either way, you guys. So don't let him treat you or have you think any different. But that really solidified it for him, like, oh shit, this is pretty. Yay, Rainy!
Thanks, Rainy.
Thank you.
It's insane.
That really solidified it for him, like, oh shit, I need to do something about this.
So anyway, so I go there I basically was admitting myself to the hospital,
which his neurologist told us because we met with them.
Got worse.
We met with them virtually, but right before we left, like a week before we left.
Yeah.
And he said if your symptoms get any worse than they are right now, because he saw the decline, just take him to the hospital. Don't call, you can call first if you want, but like, just take him and tell him you're one of our patients. We said, got it.
So we did. So I got admitted that was on your birthday night, right?
Yeah. On the 11th.
On the 11th of January.
So it was a Monday. Just to give you guys a timeline.
Yep. This is on a Monday. So of course they run all panels again. I get an MRI done. My neurologist comes and sees me and is basically like, hey, we want to do this test called an angiogram, which is basically, it's a catheter they used to run it through your groin. Thankfully, I didn't have to do that.
I was going to say, they still do if they can't get it through.
Yeah, so they run it, they start right here, and they go all the way through your artery, up into your brain, and they shoot a contrast so they can watch it live in your brain. So basically, you're in a machine, like an MRI machine, and they can see the contrast basically get shot out, and they can tell if it's vasculitis or not. That test right there is to prove or not prove if you have vasculitis. So that test came back not vasculitis, and they were all 100% sold that that's what it was. So because it ended up not being that, they came back.
They kind of went, oh shit.
Wednesday, so this is now 2 days later, and we're like, hey, you
did the angiogram on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday they didn't do anything. They told us they were gonna go straight to one thing, then they were like, oh, another spinal tap, and we'll do that, and then he talked them out of another spinal tap, and then they got onto the angiogram, and then you did that Wednesday morning.
Right. So then So then after the angiogram, the team of doctors, like literally like 6 of them come in and they're like, hey, so we're pretty sure it's not vasculitis because the angiogram didn't show it. To get a definite diagnosis, we need to do a brain biopsy. So basically they want to go into my brain. I've only done one. They basically cut into my skull, go into my brain and take a piece and then test it. So I did have brain surgery. I don't know if you could probably see it, probably not.
You guys, okay, so think like any TV show or anything. You think of someone having brain surgery, and we're not talking like the biopsy where they stick the little needle in. Like
this is like they cut a piece of my skull away.
Took it out, took some out, bolted it back in, for lack of better terms.
Twigbotomy, exactly.
Yeah.
Grey's Anatomy.
Exactly. But you think they're going to shave the whole head. He's going to be in a head dressing.
Right.
I saw him on video chat, like...
Look at this. You can't even tell.
And his scar's like this big, at least, right?
Oh, at least, yeah.
You would never know. I saw him on video chat afterwards because, again, fucking COVID. I can't go see him.
So Rainey, it's not stupid because
it could.
Here's what's scary. So I'm in the hospital by myself. I can have no visitors.
They're not calling anybody.
And I'm going through this crazy, like I have like 15 doctors standing in front of me. They're all debating what it could be, like literally what you see like in an episode of House. They're all like arguing back and forth, like, spouting ideas. So I'm alone during all this, and they tell me when they want to do the brain biopsy, here's what can happen. It can ruin your memory, because if they miss something, if they snip a piece of your brain, you can lose motor functions, you can lose the ability to walk, you can lose the ability to speak.
You can turn into a vegetable.
Yeah, they can kill you. Like death is like the main one. Like it says, brain surgery, the number one thing that could happen is death. So like I'm going through this and I have to sign off like, yeah, we can do this alone. So I literally have no one to like comfort me or go through these decisions with me or whatever. So thankfully brain surgery went fine because I'm here right now and I have my memory and I can talk
don't even
and
know
all
how
that
many
stuff. So brain surgery goes well. They take the biopsy. We wait like 2 weeks for the results. I literally go home the next day.
The next day.
Even the best surgeons have very little experience with brain
exactly.
surgery. Yes.
And so he
and they
had
told me
a
that,
specific, but I took him home. That was Thursday morning. He got brain surgery. I took him home Friday at, what time did I pick you up? Like 2:30?
Was it 2:30?
Yeah, because I left my study skills class.
So mind you, before this, the Wednesday that they're telling me all this, like, hey, we have to do brain biopsy. It's gonna be a definite answer, right? This is the most definite way. This is going to 100% tell us what it is. So we wait about 2 weeks, which sucks.
They told us 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
So guess what we did? Called.
And the reason it took so long is because they had to send their labs to Massachusetts General Hospital, which is the big one, because they didn't get any answers. So Massachusetts come back and they say, well, yeah, there's no definite diagnosis from his biopsy. So basically what they had to do is they had to take all the testing that I had done, including the biopsy, and look at all the symptoms and everything that was happening and basically
start looking at case studies
by, this is what's happened. Similar cases have shown this, so this is what it is. So
we have like an unofficial diagnosis.
Yeah, so technically they still don't 100% know. So I could start getting treatment and then it doesn't do anything. Then they're gonna know, hey, it's not this. But it's something called slippers. SLIPPERS.
He's got the slip, you guys.
Which is a very rare form of an already rare autoimmune disease called clippers. So
it's an autoimmune.
Kinda, Jade.
Yeah, for real. That's what it felt like.
I'm gonna hit, actually it's Maine. Hang on.
Maine?
No.
Well,
can y'all see my screen?
No.
Yeah, they can.
Oh. So, yeah, he's got the slip.
Go to Maine.
Maine?
Yeah. basically what clippers is in the pons of your brain, which a pond is...
We can't see that.
What?
Nope. It's your lower... Yep.
Oh.
We would have had a lot more fun at your office.
Yeah, it's ultra wide. So the pons of your brain are right here. There's what your spinal cord comes up, and it's called the pons. And clippers attacks the pons of the brain.
The blood vessels around it, right?
No, that's
No?
vasculitis. Well, yes, around.
It's
blood
around
vessels,
the.
yes.
It's not the blood vessel itself. It
But
attacks around it.
So, slippers it attacks any part of the brain that has a blood vessel around it, which is basically all of it. They do like footprints.
So clippers is like, you can pinpoint it a little bit more. It's already super rare, but it's pinpointed.
Yeah.
Whereas
so
slippers is like, but wait, there's more. Not only is it in the pons of your brain, but it can literally be anywhere else too.
Yep. So that's why what was happening is I was getting hits, like pieces of my brain that were getting attacked were then causing other symptoms like the gait and like the spelling and earth spelling, which that was probably bad too. But the speech and stuff. So this is the crazy part. Clippers and slippers only has
Total.
60 cases total in the world. So I make number
Ever.
61 reported. So I'm number 61 in the world. So when people say they're 1 in a million, I'm 1 in 139 million, y'all. So
there were two options of like, these are what we could try.
yeah.
He was
so the really good thing about this disease is that it responds well. When it attacks, it creates inflammation and lesions, and to counteract that, you do steroids. And that's the good thing about this is the steroids really, really help, because within a day of the first one, my gait was better. I could actually walk.
He walked better the day after surgery, like me picking him up from the hospital, than he did the day I took him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
So the good thing is when it does flare up and I have an attack, I can do the steroid treatment and then it'll bring down the symptoms.
so right after the hospital, the 2 days he was in the hospital, and then the 3 days afterward, he had, that was a terrible noise. He had an IV steroid because he can't take it orally. It's too much. He was literally on 5,000 milligrams of steroids a day.
No, 1,000 a day.
I mean, that's what I meant. 1,000. So 5,000 total. So then, and a lot of the inflammation went down. He had another MRI while he was in the hospital, and then one 2 weeks later, and a lot of the inflammation had gone away. It's not gone. Getting the steroids when they thought it was a stroke caused you to be better. Exactly. That's exactly what I think happened as well. They masked it very well.
Yes.
Then he'll start the IV. He has to get 2 of them the first time. And then we get our second vaccine, and then he'll do another MRI, have a follow-up, and then hopefully won't have to have another infusion until 6 months after that.
So long term, the vaccine does scare me too.
Yeah, we're a little worried,
I need to get it before I take the Rituxan, because Rituxan will actually kill a live vaccine.
Yeah.
So it won't do anything. Long term effects, yes, Weiser. My left hand, my dexterity in it is still very low. Like when I'm typing, it's still very slow to type with my left hand only.
Your balance hasn't come 100% back either.
No.
Like not what it used to be.
Right.
But that's what we don't know. Like, we don't know.
No, Coco.
What?
She just has
Oh, no. He's got the slip, Coco. We don't know what inflammation is now scar tissue versus if it's
Permanent damage.
permanent or not.
Because they did see that I have necrosis, which necrosis is basically dead cells. So the disease has killed some of my brain tissue. So it could be permanent. But we hope not.
Yeah. So that's what we're hoping for when he gets whatever next MRI. The inflammation will be gone. Because if there's still inflammation in the brain, we're kind of back down to square zero, right? So, yeah, big words. It's called, he has slippers, which is a variation of an autoimmune disease called clippers. But that's our unofficial diagnosis right now. And that's what we're treating right now. And I say we because we are definitely both going through this together.
So, from what it could have been with ALS and lymphoma, which is cancer, does it suck to have this? Absolutely. But it could always be worse. It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, for sure.